Well, well. Feast your peepers on this trio of dips, would ya? And look at that, would ya? They've all almost got recognizable faces. Sort of. I guess that's a face. Hey? Certainly better than the mechanical cockroach nightmares that the Bayverse typically offered up. Yeah, today's special 3 for the price of 1. Bridge boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bridge boys. So, primarily, the reason I thought I'd do these 3 dudes together is A, if I don't, I doubt I'll get through all of them with my current release schedule. There just aren't enough goddamn hours in the day. And secondly, after getting them in hand and having a bow fiddle, I gotta say, the things I like and the things I don't like are the same pretty well across all 3. So, you know, doing this more than once seemed a little redundant. Wait, wrong franchise. Alright, look, as we get deeper into it, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. I'll try not to cover too much of the same ground. Why don't we start with Ratchet? Whoop! Ugh. Look at him, would you? He looks incredible. He's the tallest of the 3, and all of them are quite well articulated. Ratchet in particular has a really good rolling head joint. That head is on a fantastic bowl joint. It means you can throw all kinds of like really subtle and nuanced looks, and you can even look up a little bit, which isn't something you get a hell of a lot of. And I'm all about it. All 3 of them, in my opinion, look really good. I know that these Bumblebee designs aren't everyone's cup of tea, but I think they're a huge improvement over the Bayverse designs, chiefly because you can look at a character and you don't need to be told who it is. Like, remember all the way back in 2007 when we saw movie Starscream for the first time? And you're like, what? Really? It's grotesque. But, you know, this is very obviously Ratchet. He doesn't have the face of a goat, nor is he green. It's what I want from Ratchet, right? Window chest, mostly white, head crest, sold. You know how in your standard Bay movie, the Autobots look so different from the Decepticons that the whole thing almost feels like a race war? You don't really get that here, because everyone looks like a humanoid robot. Which is kind of the whole point, really. You know, he's just throwing some really great shapes. I like these fake wheels here, they work for me. In terms of articulation, arms almost go all the way around. They catch a little bit. Just a little bit. But you can do it, should you wish to. Then, they fold up here, which I really like in terms of like an articulated joint. I think that's very cool to help him keep these lines. You got a double D elbow, which gets to 90. They're sort of shortish arms, but it gets to 90. No wrist swivel, but you get a little bit of a hinge from transformation. We get a waist swivel, which goes not all the way around, but pretty friggin' far. Oh no, it does go all the round. I stand corrected. You've got these great universal joints. Pcha! So we can throw out some high kicks at the hips. Then you get a thigh swivel, a past 90 bend on that knee. You get a little bit of back on the foot, and a little bit of ankle tilt. On the whole, I think that's some pretty incredible posability. I think Brawn also looks really good. I like their interpretation with this kind of like, you know, juggernaut head in a punch bowl kind of dealio. I imagine that that's something that divides people just as much as they like it, but I'm all about it. He feels like the stocky strong boy. He's just good. And I find, especially this one, he doesn't really look like he necessarily even transforms. Which was just, I think, a really cool thing about these Bumblebee figures in general, with not being, you know, subservient to whatever random alt modes have been picked out in the name of movie magic by Michael Bay and his delusional courtier of sycophants. So instead, it's robot mode first, and then they were told, yeah, try and make a vehicle mode out of it, because, you know, we got to have that in there. Ha-cha-cha! He weirdly reminds me of my friend Jake. What? But, you know, not too over-designed, not too over-stylized. I think, you know, they were trapped by having to have some Bayverse aesthetics, But they've managed to get back to where it should be as much as I think they possibly could without rebooting the entire thing. Which, let's be honest, they probably should, right? Reboot it. We don't need those Bayverse movies no more. We don't need no Bay versions. Hey! Michael! Leave these bots alone! So, Brawn articulation-wise, you've got a ball-jointed shoulder, which everyone always loves, right? Then, it actually has a mushroom peg in it as well. So you can get a little bit more twisty-twisty if you need it. I don't know why you do or why you would, but it's there and it's nice. Then, elbows. Oh, on a double joint. Look at that. What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. And there you get a full waist swivel. Love it. Gotta have it. Give us the swivel. He's got universal joint on his hips. They don't go as far because of some of his, accoutrement. But, I don't think of Brawn as being a particularly poseable guy. And he sort of makes up with it by having such a deep knee bend that doesn't look weird. I think that just looks really mecha and cool, the way that it actually moves. He then has a swivel just above the knee. He's got a little bit of forward. He can do a, testing the pull toe. Ooh, too cold. And then he's got a real nice tilt out of that ankle as well. It does that thing that I'm not personally a huge fan of, where it's kind of a gaping chasm there, but, nobody's perfect. There's too many of them. Then lastly, we've got Wheeljack. How much does that look like Wheeljack? That looks a lot like Wheeljack. Right? Shoulders all the way around on a ball joint. Then you've got an awesome double elbow again. You can be curling all day. Get out of here, buddy. We get a mushroom peg for a bicep swivel, and then no hand articulation, unfortunately, because of this piece. I do think that they probably could have found something to do with this piece, like, have it swivel around and face the other way so it was a little less intrusive. But on the whole, still pretty dope. Waist swiv, ball jointed hips, that then also have this cool thigh swivel in them where it's kind of sculpted with that cover. It's almost a little bit like, mech techie, right? I feel alive! He's got a knee bend, which is almost 90. We get a little bit forward on the toe, but no ankle tilt on this guy. What you playing at, man? So, I would say Wheeljack, articulation-wise, is probably the weakest, but even then, he's still a lot more bendy a boy than a lot of other figs that we've seen. I do Pilates! So, when it comes to accessories, our boys are packing some pretty serious heat. I remember when we first saw, the Fan First Friday revealios and what have you, it looked a lot like they all just had the exact same gun. But, if we flip them around and have a look at these proton packs on their backs, they're actually all different. And they all have pretty nifty and unique weapon storage as well, so you can have that massive cannon slung across their back. I'm sure anyone could be forgiven for thinking that they actually all came packed with the same gun. But if we have a look, everyone's gun, well, especially Brawn's because he's got that drill bit. Let's take that off. And let's get Ratchet's gun. Right, if you have a look, they're all clearly from the same, armorer, but it's more like they're from the same school of artillery rather than actually all being the same gun. They all have a similar design, but they're all actually quite different in terms of their, their finish and their surface details, as well as the plastic they've been poured from. So I think that's a really nice touch. Because when they're all armed up, it definitely gives them the vibe of being part of the same fighting force. It adds a level of cohesion that makes them, okay, cool, well this is the Autobot gun. This is how Autobots shoot. So, Brawn is the only one that comes with a second accessory by way of this big drill thing, which, should you so desire, you can put on the end of his cannon. Given the 5mm nature of that gun barrel to be able to put that bit on the end, the other advantage, of course, is you can also have him, rock some blast effects. it does seem to me a little bit of a missed opportunity that then they didn't widen the barrel that tiny bit more to be able to let Ratchet's gun take a blast effect. Wheeljack's gun is much smaller, and so he has no chance. Even the littler blast effects don't really work, so that's a shame, right? That's a munitions misstep, in my opinion. Zap. It is, however, fun nonetheless to have them collectively kick some ass.
Stop! He's already dead!
Alrighty, so, while we've got them here, why don't we just have a quick look at a couple of comparisons, help you all get a sense of how big they are and where they sit alongside some of their peeps. Whoop. First, we'll get in Cybertronian Bumblebee Cliff Jumper. Alright, so even, Brawn's probably a little bit shorter than him, but Wheeljack and assuredly Ratchet are quite a lot taller. And then on the larger side of life, let's have a look at Starscream and Soundwave. So, I don't know, you didn't super get to see them standing next to each other in the movies that much, but you got to assume that Starscream was a similar size to Blitzwing, and, you know, Cliff Jumper's a similar size to Bumblebee, so, you know, based off of those kind of extrapolations, I feel like these guys are all scaled pretty well together. It does look quite a bit, though, like the Autobots are about to have their lunch money stolen. And while we're here, let's also just sideline Brawn for a moment, because then we can get in here and do a couple of War for Cybertron comparisons. So, sorry Ratchet, but here's Wheeljack and Wheeljack. Not too bad, a little bit smaller. The Bumblebee designs seem really cool, and then you look at them next to some sort of more faithfully G1 stuff, and you're just like, there's still a way to go. I know that they were, you know, kind of trapped by what Michael Bay had done before them, but I don't think getting something closer to this is too out of the question, right? Then let's get Ratchet next to Ratchet. So, as you can see, Ratchet was one of the bigger War for Cybertron deluxes, and now Bumblebee Ratchet is one of the bigger Bumblebee deluxes. But right, there's no doubting or denying that these are the same dude, is there really? Kudos to you. So, alright, with all that good stuff out of the way and the gushing done, it's time to hit on a few of the quibbles, which are kind of the same across all of them. And would you believe it's joint tension and QC issues?
Oh, there's a big surprise! That's an incredible. I think I'm gonna have a heart attack and die from that surprise.
So we'll go through them real quick, and I'll show you what I mean. So Brawn's ball jointed shoulders, very, very loose to the point where he has a hard time keeping his own gun aloft, which is, you know, an issue for the Autobot Strong Boy. Brawn is probably the tightest of the bunch, but, you know, these could be tighter joints. It would help with posability and weapon holding and all that kind of jazz. Jazz? All that kind of jazz. All that kind of jazz. His legs are pretty good, but so that is a big plus for him. Ratchet, he has some pretty loose legs. I find a lot of the time you'll be posing him out, you try and get him to stand up, and then he'll just counterbalance and counterweight and fall forward. These universals are very loose. He stands up pretty well, but I think it's one of those figures that, like, you'll be like, yeah, cool, he's standing. And then when you leave the room, he'll start to slowly fall down under the weight of his own burdened mind. So just be mindful of that. And then Wheeljack is just atrocious. Like, that takes no effort to make that fall down. And so he can barely stand up. Like, if you get him in a position he's fine, then he will tipple topple. The other issue that I have with Wheeljack is these chest pieces don't ever really want to stay tabbed in. There's not actually much holding them together. So, I don't know, maybe it's just mine, but that is, these bits are forever coming undone. He's fallen apart.
Man, I don't feel that well. Like I'm being beaten up underwater. I can feel bits of my brain falling away like a wet cake.
I mean, it's a minor issue, but it's an issue nonetheless, right? It can't all be beer and Skittles. Oh, hey, oh, hey, gotta defend the bridge. No one's getting past my bridge.
Ow, quit it. Ow, quit it.
So, it is now transformation time. And I'll say this straight off the bat, all of them have had way more complex a transformation than I would have imagined from, you know, just looking at them, really. Not so much Brawn, but definitely Wheeljack and Ratchet. So let's go in order of transformation complexity and kick things off with the Juggernaut.
Don't you know who I am?
First thing you're gonna do is come around the back, flip this up, and flip that little wheelie bit out. Then you're gonna push that head out the way. Not all the way out the way, but like quite a bit out the way. Then these arms, you can see those posts there are gonna fit with there. So you gotta make sure that you give them the old double trouble. It's it can be kind of hard to tell exactly whether or not you've actually managed to peg those onto the pegs, but at the same time, it doesn't hugely matter. Twisty, and then these knees, pretty cool. They actually come up on themselves. Pin in like that. Same over here. You'll see the bit on the foot. Kind of just tabs in. Yeah. Then we want to twist these bits around like this and just bring them down and plug them into the wheels, and also try and get that little notch and get them going together at the same time. It can be difficult. Yeah. And then yeah. And that's on like that. That's all nicely, neatly. Tuck it away. Oh, come on, you jerk. Get back on there. Go in the hole.
Are you too good for your home? Answer me!
There we go. That's got him. And this is little boy Brawn. He's so cute! So, I don't really know what this bit's for. I don't know. Maybe if you want, you can put an energon cube in there. I don't know what ends, but you could do it.
Shall I hold that for you, sir? Okay, shall I hold that for you, sir? Okay.
Special delivery. Then the idea is, you get this gun. It's got that notch there. You sit that in place and just peg it on like that. And then what's really cool is like, that's all flush and, you know, it's got a bit of a grill going. But then if you want to bring in his little drill horn, right? You can fold that piece up, plug that in, and then he's armed and ready for war. I don't know what it is about him in this mode, but it kind of reminds me of like the drill dude from that old Sonic cartoon. Maybe it's like all the round shapes or whatever. But I don't know. I think that is really cool. Especially when, you know, it's like, alright, let's go robot first and then reverse engineer the vehicle mode. You can't be mad with that. That looks Cybertronian AF. If we're talking Cybertronian alt modes, this does it for me a hell of a lot more than Siege Sideswipe ever did. In some ways, Wheeljack might actually be a little bit more complicated, but at least, you know, with the help of the instructions, I managed to actually do this guy. Ratchet, I couldn't even friggin' do. So, okay. Fold this crap down. Fold this up. Fold this bit out. Fold that up. Put that in there. Then you want to twist his head sideways. Then you want to disconnect it and push it back. Then we want to get these arms sort of up and out of the way. Fold those fins down along the back of his arms. And then they do this cool twisto-chango business. But it's kind of hard to get them where they need to be. Once you've sort of disseminated this kind of nightmare a little bit, you can go ahead and twist that waist around. Like so. Fold all this malarkey down. You kind of want to bring him around, make sure these bits are down and these arms are kind of out straight. It feels weird and there's quite a bit of like back and forward here, but anyway, that's what it wants you to do for now. And this head, go ahead and straighten out that piece right there. Fold that down, and then the arms we kind of want to bring up and into place like so. See how they clip in the middle, sort of? Very sort of. Now, his legs, are absolutely a ranganana. They really, really, really are. So if we come around to the back, you kind of just want to untab this bit a little bit. It doesn't super go anywhere or work very well, but that's what you want to do. Just loosen those. Once these are loosened and are kind of out straight, you can take this piece, fold it up, and this is going to tab in there like that to form part of the side of the car. Do the same thango on the other side, yo. Disconnect that. Try and get it to play along, swivel up, and plug in on the side. If it will allow such things to happen. It's not, you know, a huge fan of working with you. This one, yeah. Get in there. You want to fold it down so it's kind of sat like this. Then, I'm going to get these pieces, twist them up from this kind of seated position, and then we can stand him back up so that these sit along his thighs. Alright, bear with me, because this is nuts. This is a very involved transformation. Once these are in place, you can come around, get these wheel pieces, and finally bring them around. And hope that it all sort of loosely works. It's a lot of like, just kind of hoping things work, which I'm not a huge fan of. But what do you do? So then we can come down to these feet and plug them in together with a clickety-clack, fold the toes down, and then just spend a second trying to, you know, actually get things to fit. I think you can see how it's almost becoming a car. Right, at this point, we'll take this head that's on sideways, slide that into that space, kind of just sits there really. From here, now we are free and clear to bring this whole section down and try and get this to tab in everywhere that it needs to, you know, tab in. And then the last little step for the arms, we just want to fold them in on their double joint and get them to sit underneath that back bit, and then just fold out these sort of would-be spoilers. There you've got Wheeljack doing his Wheeljack thing. Pretty, like, complicated, right, for such a little bro? And then because of all the chicanery that went into getting all these side panels to sit flush and line up and all that kind of jazz, you do have to do a little bit of finagling to get it all to sit sort of flush, like it should. But once you do, it is very, very solid, and surprisingly good clearance. So then once that's done, you go ahead, get his gun, and this will stick in using these little tabs on the side. So you just want to put it in flat so that it sits in one of those grooves, and that'll kind of put it down the center to a certain extent. And bam, Wheeljack. Love it. Okay, so I love this figure. I really, really do. I like, to the point where I will happily get, you know, the Ironhide version, which is more or less the exact same thing, because it is really cool. But here's a bit of a Dennis.
Because Dennis is a bastard, man!
So, first things first, get that head into a reasonable position. Come around here, undo this back piece, this one, and then flip up that over his head, like he's a cartoon who's smashed through a wall. Fold in those hands, and then we can untab this stomach down here and fold all this forward and out so that he's, you know, coming apart like this. It's crazy. This is a very, very big deal. So let's just kind of straighten those out. Straighten that out. Right. Now, what we're going to do is get these feet, fold them back like that. Then we're going to turn these around and turn this around. Is that how it goes? Do they sit flush like that? That's got the wheels on the outside. But then is this going to come across? Okay, no. So then we flip this around. Oh my god. This bit, this twisty nonsense bit is such a goddamn nightmare. Twist that around. Bend that in. Okay. Ha 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 ha. Take that, Ratchet. Yes. Alright, so with that twisty nightmare complete, you'll see a couple little tabs and pegs and things here to help hold that in. Get them clicked in real well so that hopefully it doesn't move around again. Make sure all that sits flush. Yeah, now we're cooking. Flip this piece in. Make sure those arms are straight. Like those shoulders are straight rather. Yes. And then we're gonna just bring these in. And these little bits here, can you see them? Yep, that little bit is gonna connect into that arm piece. Sort of helps a little bit. And you're trying to make sure that this bit sits inside there which it's not really want to do. Oh, gotcha, you butter. Oh my god, I don't actually know what the hell was going on and why that wasn't working, but whatever. He's together now. But holy smack, like I'm literally sweating. That was aggravating. As much as I think this is a really cool Cybertronian mode that very easily you can see it becoming like a panel van, I'm not doing this transformation ever friggin' again because it feels like you're gonna break it, and it's so complicated and twisty, and cause he's so well articulated, you have to have everything in just such a perfectly lined up space. But anyway, take the gun, put it on top, that's him, I'm done, I don't care anymore.
And now, here they are, the most daredevil group of daffy drivers to ever whirl their wheels in the wacky races, competing for the title of the world's wackiest racer.
So that pretty well brings us to the end of this trio of dips. Thank you so much for persevering and coming with me on this galactic odyssey. Hope you enjoyed yourself. Hope I managed to sort of clarify any thoughts you might have had about whether or not you're planning on picking these three dudes up. What do you reckon? Be sure to sound off in the comments below. Let me know how you're vibing on them. I really like them. I think Wheeljack is the weakest. Ratchet's my favorite, but oddly enough, Brawn is probably the best. I think he has the coolest alt mode. He's kind of the most stylized, and he probably has the best QC of the three. Wheeljack is a little bit like Cliffjumper was, in that he's a bit of a floppy mess of, you know, panels and tabs and things. I will give him kudos for having such a clever transformation. But Ratchet just throws such mean shapes. Like, I really cannot wait to get the Ironhide version of this guy. We got to see him at Fans First Friday, and now I really just need to get him and RC in hand because they are the bomb diggity. Also, can we get like a Voyager shockwave already, please? And thank you. Dun 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 dun.